Hello, everybody, and welcome to Blue Jays Today, where today, folks, this morning, we are going to hear from Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins. A tough scene for the Toronto Blue Jays this season, but we will be hearing from the leaders of this organization, this ball team. They will be telling us about our future aspirations as a franchise and how we are going to get out from this deep, dark pit. I'm your host, Nicholas Playlock. It's going to be a really fun one, everybody. I'm so excited for this.
I'm your host, Adam Peddle. Yes, everybody, this is going to be a legendary stream where we watch our leaders tell us exactly what went wrong and how they're going to fix everything. It's like politics, but in Blue Jay baseball form. And I can't wait to hear all of the apologies and the game plan that Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro are about to throw out to all of us. And we should be thankful that they're here leading this charge.
Yeah, so
sarcasm.
Yeah, of course, of course. Now, a little bit of housekeeping, everybody. We are going to be playing the live audio from this press conference, so you will be hearing the actual words from Mark Shapiro and from Ross Atkins. Now, we cannot show you the video, but, I mean, it's just going to be a talking head. So
that's the way it goes.
Most important thing is the audio. We're going to be live reacting to that. How it is structured, Mark Shapiro is going to come out first. He's going to be coming out in like 3 minutes now. It's going to be just, he'll be at 11. Then there's going to be a brief intermission where I guess that should be a good time for us to really be able to like dissect what it was that he said. Then Ross Atkins is going to come out and address the media, I'm assuming 10, 15 minutes after Mark Shapiro finishes with his. And once that's finished, we will then give probably a brief recap of what it was that he said and just overall what it's going to look like for these Toronto Blue Jays. But that's where we're at right now, everybody. Dan saying, love the Blazers, boys. Reminds me of Weekly Dumb. Yeah, how appropriate for today. Hey, that's what we're thinking,
that's kind of good. Look, we got to make a parody of this whole situation, right? If you're not having fun when you're watching the Blue Jays baseball, well, you're missing out because this is a comedy show.
And here's the thing, man. I know for a fact that Ross and Mark aren't going to be taking this seriously, so somebody has to, and it might as well be us. Welcome into the 88 people that are here right now. If you haven't already done so, hit the like, smash the subscribe button. This is going to be, we've honestly been waiting for this stream for a long period of time now, just being able to react live to exactly what it was that's going to be said here. What are some of like your your buzzwords that you're expecting to hear from Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro today?
I was considering putting a counter on this stream of talent, consistency, preparation, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. But those are definitely a lot of the words you're going to hear.
Stick with the plan.
Stick with the plan.
That's a good one.
We believe in our guys. We believe in the talent. We believe in the players. We believe we
trust the process.
Trust the process. We believe we're making the right moves. We've already started planning, like all that kind of stuff. That's all the BS stuff. Now I want to throw it back to you. What do you actually need to hear? Because we kind of made a few videos now talking about what the Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro press conference would ideally look like. Let's give a little preview of what we need to hear today, everybody.
Well, now that we are actually here, specifically speaking about Ross Atkins, I mean from both of them, but like I want to hear that there is acknowledgement. You know that you messed up, and where I want to hear specifics too. It's not just like we didn't hit our expectations here. How and why? How and why? What were the areas that you didn't meet? What if you need to? I'm not saying that you pull a full Arizona Diamondbacks thing and completely slam Jordan Montgomery, but if you got to pull out some names, then like who's got to play better? You don't need to singular guys out here, but. The outfield needs to be better. Hitting-wise, or offensively speaking, like the middle of the lineup needs to be. I want to hear where we need to improve. And then also, too, what are the actionable changes that are going to be made here? I want to feel instilled with confidence that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to be extended after this press conference. I want to know that that's going to be a top priority. I don't want this whole beating around the bush thing about, maybe he can go to free agency. No, fuck that. The top priority is extending Vladimir Guerrero Jr. We know that we have to do that. We're going to be working on that in the next few months. And then after that, we are going to be replenishing the bullpen and replenishing other things. So that's what I need to hear from Ross and from Mark today.
I'm with you on this, Nick. I am with you. They do have the live feed coming up right now. So in a moment, we're going to flash over and give you guys the audio once we start hearing something over there on Sportsnet.
Yeah,
who is
so far
broadcasting it right
they're
now.
literally showing a blank
chair.
screen of nothing. You're not missing anything important, everybody. I can assure you of that.
Okay. Well, I'm kind of with you on that. I've kind of given my 2 cents of what I need to hear. I need to hear a literal, detailed action plan. So that's kind of where I'm at with this one. Will we see it? I think odds unlikely. Unlikely.
Well, we've watched enough Ross and Mark press conferences to know typically what we expect. Here we are, everybody.
Here we go, everybody. Here is
This just in. Here we go.
Here we go. Everyone listen up.
With brief opening remarks from President and CEO Mark Shapiro.
Morning. Thank you for joining me today. Obviously had
Let us know if the
way
volume's
more
good,
time
guys.
than I want or I'd hoped for to reflect upon the season over the past few weeks. A lot of things we'd rather be doing today, I'm sure all of you as well, watching other teams play in the playoffs, competing, watching those games yesterday. Not an easy thing to do, but really over the past few weeks, combined with, the losses, was the stark reality that the past 4 seasons we played meaningful games all the way through September, and that playing September baseball games without playoff implications is painful. It's tough.
Okay.
It's not where we want to be,
No shit.
not what we want for our fans, and certainly not enjoyable for us either. This past season was a bitter disappointment, incredibly disappointing. And as a leader of the organization, the accountability and the responsibility for that clearly rests with me and lies with me.
Good.
I get woken up each night, have trouble falling asleep, thinking about the fact that we're letting down fans, that we're not creating
No
the opportunity.
way.
We're
for
really
fans
laying
to
it
get
on thick,
members
eh, Mark?
no.
October baseball, that parents and kids are not having more opportunity to celebrate the special aspects
Don't
of what
forget about the
October
kids.
baseball and playoff baseball can mean. Our fans clearly deserve better,
Yes.
but the time now is to move forward. We need to learn from the setbacks this past year, from the challenges. We need to find a way to get better. That work has already begun. Over the next month, we'll work to formulate a plan and articulate that more clearly as we move into the winter meetings and GM meetings to you and to our fans. I'm confident that next year will be a much better year.
How do you know?
And-
Someone ask him.
Well, they don't have a
Thanks,
plan
Mark.
yet. They're
They
going to
don't-
work on
If
it.
you
gonna
have
work
a
on the
question,
plan.
please
Oh,
raise
really?
your hand and we'll get you a microphone. Please state your name and your media outlet, and we'll do one question and one follow-up. Keegan?
Thank you. Keegan Madison,
Keegan.
MLB.com. Mark,
Shout out Keegan. We
thank you
love
for doing
Keegan.
this with us today. When you look at what was within your control this year, how do you evaluate the front office and what they could have done better to avoid this?
Thank you, Keegan.
Well, I think the evaluation is always looking at the year for sure, and then looking at the years prior as well. Some of what happened this year was injuries. Injuries are tough to forecast and tough to
Boba Shed.
overcome. Usually, if you don't overcome them, it's
Jordan
two
Romano.
things. One, it's lack of having quality depth and quality alternatives. In some cases, it's almost impossible to overcome, if it's to a player that you expect to contribute in an extremely meaningful way, to be a core part of what contributes. But I think that's probably the key thing, is that we need to have better depth. Wasn't just injuries, and clearly we need to be more thoughtful about the way we're producing runs and our bullpen in particular this past year.
Yes.
Wow, Ryan
And
Burr
looking
isn't
at your front
enough for
office,
the depth.
will there be any
Oh, no.
changes into the front
Also,
office?
guys,
and
Ben
why
Nicholson
or why
Smith
not?
says
Well, I mean, my responsibility is
Ross
not
Atkins
the
will return
entire
to the
front
game in
office,
2025.
but,
Not bad.
I
Guys, we're
think
gonna put together
obviously
now.
Ross is, my main concern, and there won't be a change with Ross. The reason for that is
there you have it. Ross
the
Atkins will
process
remain
that I
GM
went
of
through to
the
consider
of the Toronto Blue
whether or
Jays.
not there would be a change with his role was one of both considering alternatives and looking at the work that's been done. Not going to avoid that this year, was a disappointment. This year was a significant setback. It's not work that we're proud of, not work that he's proud of, not work that I'm proud of. Ross needs to be better. I need to be better. Our entire baseball operations need to
Swear
be
to God, I've
better.
heard that
But
before.
I know. I've heard this a
I also
thousand times.
think about the fact that we played in the
Action,
playoffs 3 of
please.
the past 5 years, that 4 of the past 5 we played meaningful games through September, that each of the past 4 we left spring training objectively with a chance to be a contending team and playoff team. And to me, that's
I
not
don't wanna
grounds
hear your
to make a
resume. I
change.
wanna hear how
If
we're
I
gonna get
felt there
better.
was a better alternative to run our baseball operation, I'd make that change.
How? Someone ask how.
Gregor?
Mark Gregor Chisholm, Toronto Star. In the last week, Mark, there's been a lot of coaches at the big league level, minor league level, who have either lost their jobs or been reassigned. Earlier in your tenure, there's been a couple managers dismissed, other spots within the organization. You've talked in the past about, when asked about Ross Atkins, the benefits of continuity that can have in the organization. So I guess my question is, why is the front office being held to a different standard than the rest of the organization?
There
Thank
you go.
you.
That's
Good
I
great.
question.
think we're
Shout
among
out.
the most stable organizations. If you read that comment in context with the other moves that organizations are making, even some that are playing in the postseason, Gregor, I would imagine our player development changes are among the smallest in all of baseball. So I think you need to ask that with a little more context. We're working to get better. We're working to address,
What
the
the
challenges
fuck?
we've had. We've had almost no changes on our coaching staff, major league coaching staff, over the past 5 years. And that decision was made by Ross. I support the decision, and it's one he'll comment more on when he meets with you today.
But why is that okay?
I don't disagree with you
like,
It's not
in terms
okay.
of the
Like, we're-
overall
okay,
player
yes, you
development
haven't made the
and
changes.
You've
We're
been
not
here
good,
for a
though.
long
You're
time,
literally
but you
protecting
are
your-
making
you're
a lot of
literally
changes
protecting yourself.
This specific offseason, especially with the coaching staff, all the way down to player development. You guys are now 9 years in. Why this year? Why are you doing that now as opposed to looking more at the front office itself?
Great.
Yeah, each year we go through a process of reflecting. Again, I'm not evaluating the player development system and the major league coaching staff.
We're one of the worst
That's
player
not
development systems in
directly my
baseball.
responsibility. I know those changes were made with an effort to improve areas we felt we need to get better. On the player development side, specifically our pitching development and our pitching acquisition at the amateur level. And on the major league coaching staff, those obviously the changes directly correlate with the two biggest challenges we had on the team this year. So I don't view those to be out of the ordinary for any year. And I think, again, those questions will be better answered by Ross.
Ben?
Literally, he's giving the Ross all the tough ones.
Yep.
Hey, Mark. Ben Nicholson-Smith, Sportsnet.
BNS, shout out.
You mentioned earlier that this past season is not work that you're proud of as a front office. I guess what specifically are you not proud
On
of?
the baseball side.
Right. I'm talking about the team. So what specifically, as far as team building, are you not proud of, and what would you want to see change going forward?
Win. Ben, it's not like a mystery. We objectively thought that we had a team that was good enough to win the American League East and play in the
most fans
postseason.
didn't think that.
I can't think of a bigger disconnect from expectations in the time that I've been here. The expectations going into the season, which are not just anecdotal and gut-based expectations, they're based on some real information and real track records of players. But to have that underperform so resoundingly, collectively as a group, is extremely tough to accept and to swallow.
So results-wise, that makes sense. And then process-wise, are you proud of the process, or when you talk about not being proud of the season, does that extend to process at all?
Well, the process is what contributes to the results, so it's got to get better. It's got to change, and we got to learn from it.
Rob?
Rob Longley, Toronto Sun and Post Media. Mark, you just mentioned that you need to be more thoughtful, and the team needs to be more thoughtful in how it produces runs. After a season in which really you reached historic lows in that department, how do you go about that, and does it speak to maybe some mistakes in approach over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I think it warrants some real reflection on the way we're putting the team together and combining talent. Again, that's not my direct responsibility, and I think Ross can probably comment more specifically on that. But throughout my conversations, and certainly I'm watching the same games as he is and you are, and it's just as frustrating for me knowing the amount of talent we have and thinking we should be scoring more. So we've got to take a long look at that. That's a process of doing a few things. One, evaluating this year. Two, evaluating our alternatives internally and our alternatives externally, and that's part of the process of putting an off-season plan together. But certainly learning from the past few seasons and some of our offensive
what did you learn?
disappointment is one of the things that we're seeking to do now. We have already all that work's already underway.
Yeah,
And
so
for a while
here's-
now, Vlad Guerrero Jr.
For me,
has been
they
seen
still
as sort of
didn't
the
answer like
cornerstone of
how
this
you're going
franchise.
to
How you gonna
do
do you
it.
still
How you
view
gonna
him
make
that
change?
way, and
They don't have a
and
plan.
How
They
do you
don't have
make
a
that?
fucking plan.
How do you go about continuing to have him be that?
There you go.
Yeah, I think Vladdy is a guy we certainly appreciate both the performance, what he brings to this team, in the clubhouse as well, his energy and his positivity. Certainly our core offensive player, without a doubt. Looking forward to him being a big part of us turning around the offense next year and being a better team, a championship caliber team next year.
Talking about next year, not future.
No short of gratitude and appreciation for that.
Shy?
Someone asked about extension.
Mark, you've in the past talked about the value of stability. You've mentioned here need for learning, for change. But I'm wondering, how can change happen without some additions of different perspectives? How are you going to ask people who have done things a certain way to suddenly deviate and proceed forward on a different path?
Yeah, I think it isn't necessarily different, not valuing different perspectives. We're going to certainly get those, whether it's, potentially adding people to the front office, whether it's elevating and asking other people to give opinions that, may not have voiced their opinions in the past. But I think it's not necessarily just, who the people are, Shy, but how they contribute and how their information is, and then the process that we go through putting the information together to make a decision. So, I think the framework that we use to make decisions, how we weight information, both internally and externally, all those things we can learn from the way we've done that in the past.
It's all the same.
Given your experience, what is that process of evaluating the way you guys go all about that? Because if I'm listening to what you're saying, you're kind of reflecting on how much do we need to change here? And there's people are always can be reluctant to change, or maybe they can't because skill sets aren't there. Like how does meaningful change happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it starts with we've got to be open-minded, and I really do believe the group of people we have down there are not entrenched in their beliefs. We are reconsidering everything. We're being thoughtful about where the shortcomings have been. There had been a lot of success here over the last 5 years. It doesn't feel like that in this moment because it was so tough to watch what we watched both this year and certainly in the last few weeks as it got even worse. But those same people, built a very good baseball team over the past 4 years prior to this. So we need to be open-minded. We need to completely reconsider the things we're doing. And I think that aspect of our organization is in place. There's no one here that thinks they have it all figured out. There's no one here that's not open-minded enough to reconsider the way we go about building a team and putting a team together. And that starts with Ross. He models that open-mindedness, and it really is pervasive throughout the organization. So I don't have any worry about that.
So he's putting a lot on Ross.
A lot on Ross.
A lot on
a
Ross.
lot on. We're gonna.
Mike?
It sounds like we want to change.
The way we do things.
Exactly.
What happened to
Mike Wilner,
consistency?
Toronto Star.
What happened to consistency,
Mark.
buddy?
First, a two-parter about Vladdy.
Two-parter. It's like a
Two-parter.
talk
Here we
radio
go.
Right.
question.
Vladdy.
Do you believe that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a generational player? And the second part of that is he said in the last week that his door is open for contract extension talks. And do you plan on walking through the door?
I don't know, generational player, like what's your definition of that? He's one of the better offensive players in the game today. I'm not sure, and certainly has the opportunity to be a generational player, because of how young he is. So, but that's to make that decree at 26 years old is not, he has the opportunity to be a generational player. It's tough.
Sure. That's your
When you go to the
definition.
Hall of
That's your
Fame,
definition.
what separates the players in those plaques is that they played the bulk. They stayed healthy and they just contributed for 15 years, 18 years. You think about Pete Rose and, him passing away and, 200 hits, how hard that is to do. Vladdy knows just how hard that guy did it 22 times. I mean, that's beyond belief, right? So he's a great talent and emerging into a great player, and it certainly has a chance to be that type of player. As far as contractually and what happens here, I listen, we believe in the same thing, and we're going to stick with that we don't talk about ongoing or active conversations and negotiations. It just doesn't serve any positive purpose. Doesn't mean we don't appreciate him any less. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about that and clarify that in the year to follow. But we're just not going to comment on that.
In the year to
while we're
follow?
talking.
That's That.
Get
the
out.
second
That's
thing
That's
is,
fireable
you
right
know.
there
this
for
is
me.
the second
We're,
straight
like,
year where
all
you
you
sat
have to
down
do
here in
is
front
say,
of us
we
and said,
want-
"Ross,
We
we
want
want
him
them
to
to
be
do
a
it."
Blue Jay for
And
life. I
that's
don't
after
give. You
his
don't have to tell me about
18th season and his
the
9th
details of your
season running
negotiation.
the
Just tell me you
baseball
want
operation.
Vladdy in this team for the rest of your life.
Downplaying the contract
I
negotiations
guess
for sure.
how many times are
Well,
you
I'm never not
comfortable-
going to say we need to be better. You know, like I think if you ever think you're done getting better, it's time to leave the job. So, we as collectively, I wake up every day thinking about how to learn, grow, and develop and get better. I don't have it all figured out. I think anybody in any job that thinks they've got it perfected and are done learning and are done growing have to reconsider that. You have to be open-minded, you have to be humble and recognize you need to get better. Again, I would say that we've been good. This year was a bitter disappointment. This year was not good. But for the past 5, the work's been good. Still needs to be better, but the work's been good.
Cahal?
Hi, Mark. Cahal Kelly with the Globe and Mail. Now that Rogers is moving to take over Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, it seems inevitable at some point that they will consolidate their sports assets. You've worked under Rogers now for a decade. Would you think you'd be the leading contender to run that consolidated sports entity?
I don't care.
Not something I've given any thought or time to. That's the first time I've actually thought about it, as you asking that question. Obviously, I've got my hands full running the organization here, Cahal, and I think I'm excited for knowing the commitment and the support that we've received here, and you've seen the investment that we've received here from Rogers.
Wow.
I'm excited what it will mean for sports
Not a lot
fans
of
in
confidence
Toronto
with
and
the Vladdy
on
thing.
every level.
Not
But
confident.
beyond that,
Feel like they're
I'm
gonna let
just
it
focused on the Jays.
Go
So
into
given that you have your hands full, you wouldn't be
the free
interested in that
agency
job.
next year.
I mean, again, I don't ever spend time thinking about anything other than what I'm doing now.
Ian?
Ian Harrison with Associated Press. Given that you sort of referenced the sort of being up at nights as you were, respecting that you don't want to be too open about contract negotiations, but how does sort of winning the fans in that sense, the bond that they have with Vladdy in particular, how do you look to kind of bridge that gap and sort of respect what it means to them to have that connection with a player whose contract is running short?
Yeah, I mean, respect that completely. I'd love to see fans appreciate the players. They tend to do that more when you win. The players in place, there's appreciation for them. You can see that in all different levels of types of players, that there's a special bond that fans develop with special teams. So, but we never overlook any individual player, and certainly Vladdy's one of those, and that appreciation, that's always a factor in the decisions we're making.
There's some reports out there about changes to your big league coaching staff. Are you in position to acknowledge any potential changes there?
Just to confirm that we made some changes and that Ross will detail those in just a half hour. So.
Okay, more Ross work. Thank you, Mark. Throw it on, Ross.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, Shai?
Mark, just from an asset management perspective, what does it look like for you guys to go into the season potentially with Bo and Vlad, potentially on expiring contracts? What are the risks? What are your comforts with that risk? Especially what it could mean if they end up departing for nothing but draft picks, given where your farm system is.
Yeah, I mean, that's a reality when you're thinking beyond next year. That's probably one of our biggest overarching challenges, is losing 2 players of that level of talent and capability and upside, and at this point of their career. So that'll be among our biggest challenges after next year. But those are, again, we've talked before, those aren't things we're just thinking of. We'll wait till the end of next year to think about. We'll continue to try to address that as we're also building next year's team, Shai.
And
Cross that
with your
bridge when we
own
get
status, has there been any change to your contractual situation?
I mean, that's not something A, I'm thinking about, or B, would I comment on. It's not my place to comment on that.
Rosie?
Rosie DeMano, Toronto Star. You'll understand why I can't identify the player, but one of your players, Sid, told me recently that this club was, quote, a fucking shit show. So,
Oh my God.
That's what I would expect from you, Rosie.
You're such a charmer.
Oh my God.
What would your response be to something like that when that is coming from somebody in your own clubhouse?
I was actually really proud of our clubhouse all year long, both player and coaching staff. You know, I think that in situations like we had this year, those cracks tend to get revealed, and I thought our clubhouse remained, you know, for anybody that was here frequently enough to actually observe or be around the team, our clubhouse remained unified, it remained positive, solution-focused. Listen, no one ever enjoys or is celebrating, you know, disappointing years and tough seasons. But you know, this year was painful for all of us and for the players included, but the environment was incredibly constructive and positive in light of the challenges.
Someone clip that.
Gregor?
Let's go, Rosie.
Yeah, Mark, similar to
Oh
Shai's
my God.
question,
That blew my
reports have
mind.
suggested that your contract is up
What
after this upcoming
the ball's
year.
on Rosie.
I understand
Let's
if you don't want to
go.
get into the negotiations of it. But how do you kind of sell free agents?
Someone
How do you
clip
sell,
that, please. Send it to
Vladdy
us.
and Bo on the kind of the long-term vision of the organization when you yourself necessarily aren't contractually signed long-term?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been asked that question in the past, Gregor. I guess I feel so strongly about the city, the opportunity to play for this organization, this team, the infrastructure that's been provided for our players, both in Dunedin and here, that it's easy for me to talk about how great it is to play here. I've never really had a player ask ever in a negotiation, like, what's your situation? You know, they tend
That's
to look at all the other
incredible. I can't
variables
get
that
this.
exist
Someone please
in
clip
place.
that.
I think what
I'm
we need
trying
to
to
be
find it
sure
right now.
we can explain is more focused on what the plan is to be a championship caliber team next year, not necessarily mine or anybody else's contractual situation.
Ben?
She got them golden eggs.
Mark, what's your expectation for payroll for 2025?
Yeah, that is not complete yet. You know, again, this is an early time to ask that question. A more appropriate time for us to have the answer would be probably the next time that we get together around the winter meetings or, you know, the GM meetings. But we never announced exactly what the payroll is. I did say to you
That's in
mid-season, I
December.
still feel pretty strongly that, you know, what we'll go through is kind of working through a team, working through alternatives and a plan. Then I will sit down with ownership and kind of walk through what the parameters are. It's not going to limit anybody Ross pursues in the offseason, anybody. So there's always some flexibility within that number. I don't see it being dramatically different next year. I know that's not a precise number, not that I would ever give you one anyway, but I don't see it either growing or decreasing in a big way.
We're done. We're screwed.
No? Okay.
Budget will not be
Caitlin?
decreasing or increasing next year.
Hey, Mark.
Hi,
Caitlin
Caitlin.
McGrath, The Athletic. Ross will probably talk about it more, but just your evaluation of the job that John Schneider did this year.
Yeah, I thought Schneid's had a good year from a standpoint of what I said earlier. We stayed solution focused in the light of a lot of headwinds and a lot of challenges and ongoing setbacks and injuries, and you know, he was just focused on how to lead his staff to find a way to get better. That is not always easy to do. It's easy to feel sorry for yourself. It's easy to point fingers and place blame. That's usually what does happen when things are really disappointing and adversity hits in a big way, and that never happened on his staff. So he's the leader of that staff, so I think that's a credit to him. I think he keeps getting better and will continue to get better.
Wow.
Rob?
Horrible press conference.
Hi, Mark. From the time you've been here, you've been consistent in your belief and conviction that a strong farm system leads to a strong team. Obviously, there's been some depth issues lately. How much do you think that's conspired to what's happened over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think that was a big part of this year, particularly on the pitching side and the bullpen. You know, is that we didn't have the depth we needed, or it didn't respond the way we needed. I think we've spent a lot of time. I've had some conversations with Ben a little bit about it from an article he wrote earlier, looking very objectively. And obviously when you pick later, when you win, which I know we're not talking about winning, but we did win 4 of the last 5 years, so we picked later in the draft. We picked 20th last year. When you lose picks for free agents and when you trade young players, it takes a hit. We need to continue to be better as an organization at identifying and acquiring talent, but we did a pretty good job in light of that context and those situations. We also took advantage of the misfortune of this year to add 13 players to our system, which dramatically improved our system. So both the steps that guys like Roden and Kasevich took, this year, along with the 13 players we added, I think this system is and a good draft. The system's in a lot better place now than it was a year ago today. So not something we can take our foot off the gas on. We need to continue to pursue a better system with a sense of urgency. But in light of the context, the expected outcomes of where we're picking and acquiring players, it hasn't been disastrous. But this year was a gap for us, particularly on the pitching side. Not on the position player side as much, but particularly on the pitching side. One of the good stories this year for me was getting a chance to see some of those players in September and longer for guys like Spencer Horwitz.
Is anyone else tuning out? Like, this guy is just a bunch of crap.
Seeing in Leo Jimenez and Spencer at least two guys that can contribute meaningfully next year, and others that certainly demonstrate the upside and tools to be a part of a championship team.
Anything else? Nope. Okay, thank you, Mark. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll resume in this room in 30 minutes for the media avail with Ross Atkins.
Okay, 30 minutes. We're getting Ross Atkins. Holy moly. Wow, that's a lot to break down right there, ladies and gentlemen.
That is quite a bit.
First off, I want to say shout out to Rosie.
That was insane. That was insane. I know you're clipping the thing right now. Like, if you got to step away and put that on social media at some point, like, please feel free to do so. But holy mother of God.
Wow.
Apparently, she says a player that she talked to called the what was it? The clubhouse? I don't want to mince words here. I want to get it right.
An effing shit show.
Yeah, literally an effing
but
shit
show. But she said the whole effing.
And then Mark Shapiro responded by saying, I would expect nothing less from you. That's insane.
Yo, Rosie.
And we think that this is a winning ball. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening here? This entire organization is a fucking
It's a joke. I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna find some good comments here, and let's really break it down, everybody. But yeah, my initial reaction is I expected to meet the minimum, because at least they would feel sorrow and forgiveness. So he started off with the whole sob story, and then he went into like just exactly what I expected, but even worse.
Yeah,
and even worse.
No, I mean they do an incredible job at literally disappointing us. Let's start with like some of the key points of information here. One of them that we already kind of knew, but was just confirmed to us, is that Ross Atkins is in fact going to be returning as the guy. So we're not going to get the resignation today. We're not going to get anything actually, because he is in fact going to be the dude. Now, Mark Shapiro made it very, very clear that he thinks that Ross needs to be better and he needs to be better and everything like that. And this is where there was a lot of hypocritical comments made, I think, because there was a lot of talk about, stability in the organization and how they have good stability.
Right.
And how that is a good thing. But what blows me away is, like, how can you say that when we are having such a down year? And I understand that your resume has been okay over the, okay, fine. You say there's a lot of success here. I don't see any fucking playoff wins.
I don't see any playoff wins.
Just,
where's the success? Oh, you know what the success is? Your sales, your ticket sales, your hot dog eating, everything like that. That's a great success. Good job. But not playoff wins, not the things that matter to the fans.
But, he's going on and talking about how the stability is the most important. And all right, fine. Maybe you truly believe that. Maybe you do believe that being stable in your organization is an asset. And I do think to an extent it can be. But then he goes on to talk about how, well, the current personnel, they need to completely change the way that they operate and think, and that he wants to have other people voice different opinions. Mm-hmm. So I guess what is confusing to me, and I think that this is why it doesn't make any fucking sense, is you want to be stable with the people that you have. You want to have a stable organization, but then you want those same people to completely change the way that they currently run the team.
That's like hiring somebody who has a certain set of skills and then saying, can you actually just drop those skills and just get completely new ones? That doesn't make any effing sense. You go out and hire people who have actual competent skills that you're missing in this franchise. And you've been together, this organization, for 9 years. And what do you have to show for it? 2016 doesn't count because that was Double A's team. You have 0 playoff wins. 0. You have nothing to show for this effing ball team. And, yeah, he also says it here, too. If there was a better alternative to run a baseball operation, I'd make that change. Okay, well, clearly there is a better way to run a baseball operation because you're not winning in the postseason and you're falling out of this AL East race when things are changing around you. So if you can't make that change, well, okay, go ahead. Let's get somebody else to go make the change. But obviously, that ain't going to happen. So it is ridiculous, the comments he's making about he's kind of backtracking on himself right there a little bit, which is, again, you backtrack when it's all BS and fluffiness and you have no actual backbone.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I do think that a lot of this is just, he's just trying to get through the day right now. Just trying to get through the day while holding on to his job.
Pushing out all the hard questions for Ross Atkins.
Yes.
God.
And that was another main point right there. What did we see from Mark Shapiro? Whenever there was something that he really did not want to answer, it was, Ross is going to handle that, when he gets into here.
And granted, those were all personal roster management questions, which, yes, that is what Ross handles. But, I think you can also throw in a couple answers yourselves. Like, are you not involved at all in the management roster? Any opinion out there?
Like,
what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing then if Ross knows all of this stuff? Now, really, the only pieces of key information that we know for sure here is that Ross is, in fact, going to be coming back. It looks like the remainder of the coaching and staff and player, personnel, all that stuff are going to be remaining. And this is what really gets me. It's like, okay, well, if you have you got all these questions. You got all these questions about players and whatever and whatnot, and you're deflecting the Ross. Well, the one thing that you should know better than anybody is the money. You should. And he's going on about how we don't have a plan yet. We don't have a budget yet. Guys,
how the hell do you not have a budget yet? What are you doing all year?
Yeah, we have been out of the race for months. When you traded away and this is the thing. I know that you have a plan, and I know that you have a budget, because if you didn't, you'd be the most incompetent person ever.
Like, you should be fired now.
When you traded every single person away at the trade deadline,
what are you doing? Sitting on your butt?
You're telling me that you guys didn't have a preemptive plan about how much money we're going to be spending in the future? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How fucking dumb do you... I know that you know how much money you want to spend.
And he says, I can't give you... Yeah, because he literally said, I can't give you a number. I can't give you a number. I can't give you a number, but it'll be more. It'll be a little less, or it won't be less. It won't be more. So obviously he knows exactly what it's going to be.
The number is we're going to spend the same fucking shit that we did last year.
This is exactly why we've been saying for the last 2 months, the only way the Blue Jays are actually going to come back and be competitive in 2025 is if they go out of their way and spend a lot of money. It was a pipe dream considering this front office, but it looks like we are not going to be competitive in 2025 unless literally everything hits. Jordan Romano's back. Bo's back. George Springer's magically back. The whole bullpen is fixed miraculously. All these young guys come up and do amazing things. That's a bunch of BS. This team is not going to be competitive next year if you're spending the same amount of money, because what are you going to get? You're going to have to spread that $45 million so thin. You're going to get not quality players. You're going to be in the same position you were this year. Disastrous.
Yeah.
Disastrous.
Well, okay, that's something to be taken right there. Quick shout out to Jordan Keats here. If they can't get the job done this year, get rid of both of them.
Jordan.
I thought that's what it was last year, but it looks like that's the plan for this year. So we know that Ross is returning. We know that the budget is going to be roughly the same, even though he can't give us a number. And we also know that there's no real commitment here to Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
No commitment at all. He mentioned years. Next year. Next year.
Like, that's, to me, is pretty blasphemous.
Yeah.
Okay, like, so we got to ask two questions. The first question was, do you think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a generational player? Now, I'm actually going to put this on the interviewer. I think that's a dumb question to ask. Like, I don't. Where are you trying to get with that? I mean, I do agree with Mark Shapiro in the sense, well, what's your definition of generational? Like, he's been very, very good, but how many generational guys are in this game? Like, there's not a whole lot. So I understand exactly where Mark was coming from there. However, the follow-up question was, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has come out and said that he is willing. The door is open. He wants to be here long term. How are you going to be approaching those extension conversations? What does that look like right now? And Mark effectively just refused to answer it. You know, he said that we're
Yep.
not, we don't want to delve into any of this stuff. We don't want to talk about these contract talks. But he didn't go the step further and even say that, like, he wants to make this happen. Why can you not come? You're like, I don't need to know you're, oh yeah, we're going back and forth on 10 or 12. Yeah, no. I don't need to know that. What I do need to know is that you are actively wanting and trying to keep Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in a Blue Jays uniform for the remainder of his career. I did not get that from what he said there.
Look, I know it's a completely different position, but Vladdy has said, he's not talking about contract details, but he's talking about his intention. We have not said our intention as a Blue Jays front office at all. And he even referred to, there's no quote of it out there, but there was a mention that they were going to pick it up next year. That's free agency. That's when he's going to go get tested from other people. If you think our budget's small now, like our budget now wouldn't be able to pay for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Like, it's not going to pay for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the next offseason.
That's the thing. You could realistically, if we're considering the budget's going to be the same thing as it was last year.
We're not paying for Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Well, you could, but the bullpen's we're effectively rolling out the same squad as we did this year, because Guerrero is going to cost likely over $30 million a year. We don't know the exact number because, again, we're not privy to the negotiations. But, yeah, like, to me, that was a major miss, a major swing and a miss for Mark Shapiro right there. Like, I wanted to hear that this is a top priority, and frankly, it should be. Every single person and their dog in the media and in baseball understands that you lose 100% of your leverage to extend him the second that the season begins.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen this offseason, I don't know if it does happen.
And I want to go back to that whole generational comment because, look, again, I don't like the question anyways, but the question is all fluffy. It doesn't matter. Like, by saying he's a generational talent means you like your guy. It doesn't matter if he ends up becoming a generational talent and we're like, oh, I was right about that. No, it doesn't effing matter. It doesn't matter because Hazel May had this tweet. I saw this. I like this. Schneider, when asked, is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. a generational talent a week ago, said, absolutely, yeah, because he's supporting his player. Mark Shapiro asked, he's one of the better offensive players. He's trying to be right. It's like he has an ego on this thing. It doesn't actually matter if you think he's a generous player. But you go support your guy.
No, because you're not thinking about this in the right way, though, Adam. No, because let me put it this way, right? If he comes out and he says that he's a generational player, and then you trade him or you don't extend him, you were the guy that went back on that. So I think he's covering his ass.
That's what I'm alluding to. He should be saying he's a generational player because that means you care about this team and you want him to be here for the rest of his career. But by not saying it, it's meaning he's expendable. He means nothing to me, and I don't care if he's a Blue Jay for the rest of his career.
Okay, now the question is, though, is Mark Shapiro actually big braining this and doing the proper thing here and not trying to gas up Guerrero so much that the price goes through the roof? Like, so here, because you also got to factor in that there is negotiations involved. I see somebody in the chat talking about this as well. I think that is a valid and good point. Maybe the true intention is we do want to keep Vladimir Guerrero Jr. here forever. However, he understands that if I come out and I say he's a generational talent, he's the best player we've had here, and we absolutely want to get him locked down, that his agent's going to come back at him and raise the price by $50 million.
I'll say this. Do we not know already that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is A, a generational talent with the numbers, and B, that he's worth exactly what he's worth, which is $350 million plus? Like, the problem with last year when he went to negotiate Vlad into arbitrations was we treated him like he was just an expendable player, which at the time he had a bad year. But now it's clear. It's clear this guy is going to be a Blue Jay, and he should be a Blue Jay for the rest of his career, and he is a core talent that you build around. And they're doing the same thing they did with Vladdy last year, where they're treating him like nothing. They're not giving him what he should be deserved, and that's another fault. And I would hate that going into this offseason. I've been saying that they should go into this offseason, treat him exactly what he is, which is, again, generational means you pay him the $300 million plus.
Well, so here's the thing. I think that you gotta have the happy medium, because I don't think that you can come out and you can say, yeah, he's the best player ever, because then the agent comes back and says, all right, well, pay us like you're gonna pay, or they're gonna pay Juan Soto, and then you're gonna go, wow, we can't give you $500 million, which would be very fair. I think that you have to walk the happy medium, though, of also saying that we do want Guerrero here. We are going to make every single possible effort to keep him here if possible. You can still leave the door open, Mark, to give yourself some I guess, leverage in these negotiations with Guerrero and his agent. You can still give yourself leverage, but you can also do it in a way and in a capacity to show the fan base and to show Guerrero that you do want to be committed to him long term. You can still hold on to leverage whilst also maintaining your intention to be committed to him. And I don't know if he walked that tightrope super fine today.
I think he did both sides very poorly. And honestly, if I'm Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and I just heard that from my president, I'm like, oh God, wow, he really doesn't really respect me.
Yeah, no,
like they did.
I get that.
Like they did with the arbitrations last year.
Right.
Again, they're what do you want me to do now? What do you want me to do? Do 50-50? Like, what do you actually want me to do? This guy literally was the face of the franchise last year, and you're still kind of just disrespecting what I am.
Right.
Which is the face of the franchise. I agree with you in a sense where, like, yeah, there is like leverage you gotta have, but again, it comes down to, if this guy actually cared about Vladdy and creating a good, sustainable ball club and caring about the fans and caring about this organization, then you would go and you'd get this done and you'd have a better – you'd be preparing for that question. You know it's coming, and you obviously didn't prepare for it good enough.
Right, and, I think that you don't need to come out here and say that, yeah, we're going to pay Vlad whatever he wants. Right, because that would be very stupid in its own right, and we do need to factor in that money is a very important thing here, and that is a big part of Mark Shapiro's job. However, there is a way to go about this whilst showing Guerrero that you respect him, respect his game, and that you do want to keep him here long term. If, of course, you can both come to an arrangement, and then you can kind of put the ball on his court, Like, if you say it's like, we're doing everything in our power to keep him here, if, of course, we are willing to come to an arrangement, then you show that you're respecting him, and then you also put the ball back in his court so that you can maintain a little bit of leverage in those negotiations. I just think that the situation there and that question specifically was pretty poorly handled.
Yeah, it definitely was. Here, I'm going to go cut this clip. Why don't we get some questions from the chat? Let's hear what you guys are saying, because we've been doing a lot of listening and talking. Yeah. Let's hear what you guys got to say. I'll be right back.
Yeah, 100%, everybody. I put a poll in here to begin. 91% of you folks are saying that you are not okay with having Ross Atkins returning as the GM. Well, we are going to be hearing from Ross Atkins very shortly, everybody. That press conference with Mark Shapiro just finished roughly 10-15 minutes ago. So we should have about 10 or 15 minutes more until Ross Atkins comes out and takes the bump, if you will, and then does his time in front of the podium. So we're going to be live reacting to that. Do not go anywhere. For the 346 people that are in here right now, if you haven't already done so, please hit the like button, smash the subscribe button. I hope that you are enjoying the coverage right here of the Ross and Mark media or end of season media presser. I was kind of treating this like it's like a presidential debate. They do their debate, we listen, and then we do the breakdown right afterwards. But ultimately, looking at what Mark Shapiro had to say, I am not getting my hopes up at all for what Ross Atkins comes out and talks about. I think that you're going to hear more of the same. I think that you're going to hear a lot of the buzzwords, a lot of the word salad. I think that you're going to hear stuff about talent and stability, and we got to do better, but they never really will get into the how of how we're going to do better. And that's the disconnect. You hear, okay, well, we've got to do more. We have the talent, we got to change our thinking. Because that was a whole big thing, right? He doesn't want to change the personnel. He wants to maintain the people that they do have in the organization. But the way that they work together, the way that they convey information, the way that they think about things, that's got to change. But we still haven't heard how they intend to do that. We are missing that final element here about, okay, you have these ideas. How are you going to do it? How are you going to accomplish this? How are you going to actively change up this organization? I think that is what we're missing right now. Jordan Keats saying, get to 69. I have no idea what the like is on this stream right now, but if you haven't already done so, we did just surpass 69. Can we get to 169 likes on this stream? That would blow us away, folks. We should definitely be able to get to over 100. We have 345 people listening in right now on this Wednesday morning, afternoon, everybody. So welcome in, folks. Obviously, a bitter season coming to an end. and it would not be complete without the annual Ross and Mark garbage dump that we are listening to right now. Midnight Rambler says, I wish these reporters had some balls. How about, why does Atkins still justify having a job, Mark, and why do you? So I will give the interviewers some credit here. I think that they did have a decent amount of balls in this one. I mean, when you hear from, Rosie saying, oh, I just talked to a player and they said that your clubhouse was fucking a shit show. Yeah, like, I'll give it to them. They are asking some hard-hitting questions, but I think that Ross and Mark specifically, they're just really good at dodging what it is that you're truly trying to get out of them, and you do hear a lot of fluff and not a lot of substance. I know it's a tough job. I know it's difficult, but, we got to do a little bit better here, boys. This is not what the people need right now. I need to hear no bullshit. We watched bullshit for 162 games. I know what bullshit looks like. I can sniff it out, and I'm smelling it on you right now. Kiro saying, if the Jays start losing next year, the fans at the Rogers Center need to start an effing shit show chant. No kidding. No kidding. I mean, that's, look, we're going to need a new hashtag for next year. I don't know if hashtag next level or hashtag to the core is where it's at. I'm thinking hashtag effing shit show is maybe where it needs to be, folks. Yeah, we're going to have Ross Atkins coming shortly, guys. I imagine he's going to be taking the podium at noon. Let me do a quick check on Twitter right now just to see if there is any update about when Ross Atkins is going to be coming. I don't see anything yet right now, but should be coming shortly. And knowing Ross, I think that his press is going to be even worse than Mark Shapiro's, but that's where we're at. That is where we're at, everybody. So if you fail at your job for 9 years, do you think you will get your 10-year pin? Says Colin. Well, this is really what pisses me off. It's like, I think we heard a lot from Mark about the resume. We heard a lot from Mark about the resume, which is, we've been really good over the last 5 years. One, that's debatable because I haven't seen a single playoff win in 5 years. Have you guys? Not from the Toronto Blue Jays, you haven't. We just haven't done it. Yes, we have made the postseason several times, and we have had some successful regular seasons, and, there's been some statistical, there's been some really good statistical years coming from some of the boys in the last 5 years. I cannot dispute that whatsoever, and I've enjoyed watching baseball for the most part in the last 5 years. However, everybody can agree that MLB, and sports in general, all right? You look around, NFL, NBA, NHL, any sport, soccer, right? Any sport, it is a what have you done for me lately kind of league. What have you done for me lately? The Miami Marlins, they just got rid. They had a 100-loss season this year. They had a 100-loss season. Their 2023 manager, Skip Shoemaker, he was the 2023 NL Manager of the Year. He's out of a job now. They got rid of him after this year. Now, I'm not saying that is the right thing to do. I do think that he was actually pretty talented, but they saw one bad year and they said it's time to go. Miami, probably a pretty bad run organization, but MLB and all of these big leagues, it's a what have you done for me lately type of league, type of mentality. When a player is bad for a couple months, when a player is bad for a year, for one season, they don't get paid very well the next year. That's just how it goes. They either get traded, they get cut, or they don't get paid. What have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately, Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins, other than putting in freaking cup holders into the Rogers Center? What have you done for me lately? 74 wins. No Vladimir Guerrero Jr. extension. No playoffs. Last in the American League East. What have you done for me lately? So I appreciate that the last 5 years have been, for the most part, exciting and good, but your resume, in my opinion, should not be what we're focusing on right now. I don't see any banners hung up. I don't see any playoff wins, and what you've done for me lately has not been good enough. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now. 9-year career, yes, but Why you warrant a 10th, I am not so sure. Also, 1 like away from 100 likes, everybody. If you haven't already done so, hit the like button on the stream. We really appreciate it. Should be getting Ross Atkins any moment now, guys. Probably 10 minutes away from getting him up onto the podium and having his entire, having his whole thing go down. Welcome back, Adam.
Thank you. Wow, that listening to Rosie was insane, guys.
You listened to it back, eh?
Oh yeah. It's great, guys. I'm posting it on our Instagram, Twitter, our TikTok. It's great. It's awesome.
If you don't already, go follow us on our social media, everybody. We obviously keep up with the Toronto Blue Jays and everything going on with this organization there as well. So if you're looking for the quick updates, then Instagram, TikTok, Twitter is the best place to do it. So now that we've seen Mark Shapiro's thing, we got Ross Atkins up next. I'd say that
great.
Mark Shapiro gets a solid like D- or even a failing grade in my opinion
very
in
bad.
terms of his press conference.
Did he even say anything good? I'm trying to think. Did he even say anything good?
I mean, like I think that we didn't learn a whole lot is the problem. We did not learn a whole lot. We learned that Ross is staying. We learned that they're going to remain, the personnel is probably going to remain the same, but they're going to think differently. And we also learned that, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is a good player, not a generational player yet. That's kind of where we're at right now. Shout out to Jordan Keats right here with the $5 dono saying, kind of funny you brought up the cup holders. That's what my mom was most surprised about their first trip to the Six. Would my trip be worth it this year? Well, we're going to find out very shortly, Jordan Keats. Ross Atkins is the one that, typically deals with all the player acquisitions and everything like that. So hopefully he has a little bit more to say. I want to know, how are we going to be spending the money that we do have this offseason? And frankly, this is another thing that pisses me off. If you don't have a fucking plan yet, or at least the semblance of a plan, what have you been doing for the past couple months, boys?
That's what I'm wondering. Actually, what is your job?
Did you see the starting lineup in the last couple weeks?
Yeah,
we're not playing competitive baseball, so I know that you're not thinking about this season, because I know we're not playing competitive baseball. What are you thinking about then? I mean, if there is no game plan.
Obviously, there's a lot more to being a president of a baseball club than we think, but I immediately thought of a plan the second the trade deadline passed. And, and then obviously that plan develops over time when you see the development of this team. What are you doing? That's another question that I would ask. I'd be like, hey, so Mark Shapiro, what are you doing this entire time if you don't have a plan?
Yeah.
Seriously, what are you doing?
What is, genuinely what's happening here? And yes, I understand that there are a lot of things that goes into it, but I would argue that the number one thing, at least for me as a fan, the number one priority is creating a winning culture, winning ball team.
Yo, give me that Trump meme where he's like, I have concepts of a plan, literally what Waterfall Flamer's saying, man.
That kind of feels like where we're at right now, It's like we're hearing that we're thinking about making a plan.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is. We're thinking about a plan. We haven't come up with it yet, but it's going to come maybe soon.
Wow, literally, Ben Nicholson Smith and Hazel May are going off right now about the generational comment that Mark Shapiro said. Ben says, if you're Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 30 homers, 166 OPS plus, second in 6+ WAR season by age 25, and you hear that Mark Shapiro stopped short of calling you a generational player when asked, how does that land? Yeah, exactly. Shapiro did acknowledge Vlad's offensive ability, but not ring an endorsement overall. No, seriously, how many players have done that? You look at the resume of our WRC plus of players before the age of 25. Vlad's in the top 10 of all time. Screw you, buddy.
Right.
Again, that's what I'm coming down to. Forget leverage and all that. It comes down to just acknowledging the player and having a good relationship. That doesn't spell good relationship.
Yeah, no.
That says you're a transaction, and that's all you are to me.
Yeah, I don't think that the relationship is there. I do agree with you in the sense that, Guerrero's made his intentions very clear, and the way that Mark and the way that this organization has approached Guerrero and spoken about it feels like your girlfriend that's about to break up with you.
Yeah, for real.
Genuinely, it feels like, oh, I'm kind of flaky. I don't know if I'm available at this time.
Yeah.
It genuinely feels that way.
Yo, big shout out to Absolute Dan. 1 month of YouTube membership. Shout
Let's
out
go.
to you, man.
Not knowing what the budget is currently is very laughable. What has he been doing for the last 2 months? Also, go Rosie. Way to own Shapiro. Thank you very much, Absolute Dan, for becoming a member for the last 30 days. But I completely agree with you, right? I genuinely, I think that they know. Like, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here and saying, like, you have to know what the budget is. I'm just assuming that they don't want to reveal that because then they're going to be held to that.
Right, exactly.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, they said they had a similar budget. Like, this thing, like, it all doesn't matter. Like, they said they were going to go get offensive players last season. They said they're going to go get they were going to do a similar budget to last year, and it really wasn't, you know, and it's really disappointing. So we really don't know. They're just saying fluffy fluff, and basically all we know is that Mark cannot be trusted. I want a Buster Posey as my president. Who's going to tell it what it is. He said, Buster Posey said, yeah, Blake Snell's a top priority for us. He's a very valuable talent, and we need him moving forward.
Did he actually?
Yeah. First press conference, when asked, what are you going to do about Blake Snell? He's going to be a free agent. We should keep him.
Wow.
Duh, because he's a player's president. Forget the BS about negotiations and like all this political corporation crap. You're a player.
Yeah.
Go respect your players, and people will play for you. No one's going to respect Mark Shapiro.
No, I get that, you know, and I do think that people would, like, if you made every single effort to go out and to sign Guerrero, saying that you wanted him back and everything like that, and it did genuinely just come down to the money, like he was asking too much or whatever,
here we go,
think
guys.
people would have respected. We
Here
have
we go.
Ross Atkins joining right now. Here we go, folks.
Let's turn this bad boy up.
Ross in the back here. When you say that you do need to take a step and make changes, what do you think that you yourself need to do better for this team to be better?
Yeah, I really think it comes down to balance in our roster construction, and that doesn't mean the obvious things like left-handed versus right-handed. Could be those things too, but I think it's how each player complements one another in that clubhouse and how they're supported. So that's the staff, that's me, that's the players, and the roster construction piece is something that we've learned a great deal about in the last year.
Can you walk us through changes to your coaching staff and why any of these changes are being made?
Okay.
Yeah, so I think you're aware of a couple of them with us having made the decision to move on from Guillermo Martinez. Gil Kim will not be returning to the staff as our field coordinator. Jeff Ware will not be returning to our staff as the assistant pitching coach in the bullpen. We've also made an adjustment to Donnie's role. Donnie is no longer going to be overseeing the offense. He will go back to a more traditional role of a bench coach. He's excited about that opportunity to impact us and John in a different way, in a bigger way. Think the world of Donnie. He's been incredible and open-minded to change as well.
Okay, Donnie Baseball, no longer offensive coordinator. Who the hell fucking knew what that role was?
Gregor Chisholm, Toronto Star. Ross, last year when we did this at the year-end thing, you talked about kind of undergoing internal review on the offense, or however you kind of want to refer to it, kind of a deep dive. Why do you think a year later we're essentially going to be kind of talking about very similar things?
Well, one, I don't, and that lies with me. That that run scoring component. I've touched on that in the roster construction aspect, and then secondly, we're demonstrating that we're open to change. So, I think those adjustments will make things different than a year ago.
Can you give me an example?
I think last year we were trying to use similar voices and similar resources in a different way, and this year we're going to obviously need to do that too, but we're also open to the change of personnel.
At the end of that review, if you guys decided a year ago that you weren't going to make changes, and then a year later you're making them, are you making the changes a year too late, or why did you not make the changes last year versus this year?
No, we felt that we've been committed to growing and learning and being open-minded, and we felt that we could do it with the people that were here. Again, that is on me.
You were wrong.
These individuals did nothing wrong. Guillermo Martinez has been very successful. A big part of some individual's success, and he's been with teams that have scored a ton of runs. But as John and I worked through it, we felt that asking people to do things differently again was not going to be quite enough, so we wanted to get new voices in.
Go to Ben.
So we did nothing
Ross,
wrong.
if Guillermo's
Nothing wrong,
gone
we fired
and
him.
Mattingly is the bench coach, who do you plan to oversee your hitting?
Yeah, we'll open up a search for that. There will be external and internal candidates for that.
Okay. And then, are there any other changes? I mean, you've kind of touched on the coaching staff, but front office wise, do you expect kind of the same group, or what's your plan for that moving forward?
Well, we've added to it externally. Some of the names bigger than others. Constantly, we've grown at a very rapid rate over the years, as many offices have. We'll continue to do that. We're open to external ads as well. We have individuals that we're already talking to. And then we always are thinking about the structure and thinking about ways to be more innovative and efficient.
Go to Caitlin.
We have concepts of a plan.
Again.
In terms of off-season priorities, you mentioned the offense already, but just can you kind of take us through what are going to be the off-season priorities in order to take this team from this disappointment to some team that can contend next year?
Yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, and we've got some time to do it. We've obviously already started that work. And there are some obvious areas that adding run scoring and adding to our bullpen, are easy to point to as opportunities, but we want to be really comprehensive and creative to make sure that we're doing it in a way that ensures we take a step. As I've talked about, I need to be better. I have got to do a better job of building that team around a very good core that has been successful. And I'm committed to doing so.
Just in terms of the bullpen, do you foresee there needing to be most of the improvements coming from externally, or do you see some internal options that can help raise this bullpen back to, league average or above league average?
Yeah, last year, coming off such a successful year and returning that group seemed like a very solid play. None of us expected the level of injuries that we had. I mean, you have to account for those, but in addition to the performance setbacks, then we also had injuries to players that would have been depth for us. So we have to have more depth. We have to do a better job of avoiding injury. And this year, we have to be probably more aggressive on the external ads. But last year, Chad Green, obviously he was here the year prior for some portion of that, but Chad Green coming into the fold was the most significant ad, and we'll probably be looking a little bit more aggressively than that.
Go to Ian.
Thank you. Ian Harrison, Associated Press. Just one more on the coaching staff. What's the implication for DeMarlo with those changes?
It's a great question, and John and Donnie and Dee have already talked about that a great deal, and they're going to talk about that balance. The scope of the managerial role every year is greater, in my opinion. It never gets easier with the amount of resources, with the amount of stakeholders, obviously with the magnitude of winning and being where we are in our cycle. There's plenty of work to be done and distributed amongst those two.
Go to Rob.
Hey, Ross. Mark just said that the team needs to be more thoughtful in the way it produces runs. The other day, John Schneider suggested that certainly there's a need for more power. What do you think the offense needs most after what was a historic low in that department?
Yeah, I mean, power is low-hanging fruit to add. I think in today's game, you also have to be cognizant of strikeouts when you do that. And I think it's also something that we have been working very hard to understand is what that means in the playoffs as well. So it's clear that contact is exceptionally important in the playoffs. That's proven. So balancing that with power additions is obviously very important, but I don't think it's as simple as just plug in a power bat. If a power bat is also a very complete hitter, right-handed, left-handed pitching doesn't matter. They're on base, their contact rate is high, doesn't matter which pitcher, whether it's velo and spin and carry at the top of the zone versus sink and slide, then sure, one hitter can do that. But there's just so many variables, and it's such a complex equation of scoring runs. As you then taking another step to talking about the complexity of just hitting and offense, I think there's more to it than power bats, but we're certainly open to adding a power bat.
You just described
Go
a
to Shy.
$300 million player.
Hey, Ross.
No, we did power
How
bat, but
would
we also
you
would play
look at
contact, not strike
the
out.
player
Want soda?
evaluation process that you guys have in place, and how
get
or
into
what
this.
type of adaptations do you need to make to it this offseason to ensure that the decision-making process evaluations are perhaps stronger than they were a year ago?
Yeah, it's interesting because the talent acquisition, in our view, has been strong. As you look at the players that have come, if you think either projections or if you're just looking at contributions in a very basic way, like, okay, did they do what they normally do, and how were they as defenders and base runners? The identification of talent has been strong for our group. Our pro scouting and research and development group has been strong in that area. It's on me to complement it better, and then it's on us to deploy it in a way that is maximizing the group.
Okay, and just in terms of back to the hitting, the offensive piece, a lot of different elements can come into play. How do you see sort of where you guys are at hitting against fastballs and power pitchers, contributing or being an area that of opportunity or area you need to address?
Yeah, it's really this year we just didn't drive the ball. Vladdy did, obviously, certainly in the second half, but we just didn't drive the ball as much. So we made good contact. If we faced good pitching, we had no problem putting the ball in play. We weren't driving the ball. We weren't getting into advantage counts as well as we actually. We were getting into advantage counts at a fine level. But then doing damage is where we saw guys just take some steps back, and I feel like that's, again, like that's something I've got to figure out and how we're supporting them.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense for offensive changes.
We'll go to Greg.
Too, like a coaching staff. Gotta have a better plan.
Hey, Ross, Greg Strong, CP.
Okay.
Curious what your confidence level is like when it comes to recruiting free agents coming off a 74-win season and with two of your faces of the franchise in Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero not signed beyond next season.
It's high. I mean, we obviously every team has challenges. There are certain players who are just not going to want to cross a border. There are certain players who are not going to want to go to the West Coast. There are certain players that want to be in an East Coast team for spring training reasons. So there's so many variables to that, and we've had very good success in attracting players here and have not come up against hurdles other than the obvious ones that are going to be, something that you really can't change. I think the free agency market has been attracted to this one because of the city, because of the team, because of the winning. The same reason that Vladdy and Bo have stated their desire to be here.
Mm-hmm. And how?
Hi, Alex Bloomfield with 680 Radio. Ross, if the goal is to be aggressive, and it seems that's what it is from you and Mark here in the last few minutes, and build a contender from what's been a 74-win team in a matter of months, do you think you have the prospect capital to support that kind of an offseason through any kind of trade, or is it all going to be pocketbook?
Yeah, we've demonstrated the ability to get talent to the major leagues. I think we've been in the top third. I know we've been in the top third in doing so in the time that I've been here. And we just went through a trade deadline that we did not want to be in, where we were selling, but we acquired 13 players that we are excited about and have learned a lot about them. They've transitioned, had good exposure, and some of them have learned that things are going to work, and some of them have learned that things they need to adjust.
Are you excited about
Just
them
as a fact check
as
for those
trade
listening, Blue
pieces,
Jays,
or are you excited about them and
prospect
developing them
system
for the
is
team
typically
next year?
ranked in
I think
the
it's
fifth worst
both,
in
right?
baseball,
You're never going
just for
to,
those
we could,
listening.
there's a lot of players internally that made strides as well. There's players that are going to be coming back from injury that will be great pieces for us moving forward.
Just
but
Bo Bichette?
You need depth in order to do either of those things.
Back to Shy.
Russ, as you look at what could be potential negotiation with Vlad over a contract extension, what potential impact do you see Juan Soto and perhaps his contract having on those discussions, and perhaps where sort of salary projections could go with his deal?
Okay.
Yeah, well, one, Vlad's here next year, and it's too hard to project on what's going to happen with Juan Soto, the structure of his deal, the magnitude of his deal. We'll see. It's could have some impact, but we'll see how that goes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Go to Ben.
Not an answer.
No.
Ross, I'm sure you guys will kind of keep an open mind as far as how you would go about improving this offense, but in your minds, how many offensive players do you think that this lineup needs to improve?
Well, if you look at the versatility that we have, we're going to need, as I've said, this is the same for every team. I think you have to have internal solutions and progress, and you have to have external adds for a market like ours and a team like ours for us to take another step. And we are committed to making that happen. We'll be obsessive about making that happen and believe it will.
How many?
How many? 2 players? Is that more? Is that?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll see, right? Like we need to do the work on that. I don't want to commit to a number of players that we have to add via trade or free agency.
Give me a
is
ballpark.
what I'm assuming that you're targeted at. But we understand that we have to take a step, and I'm just saying there's multiple ways to do that.
So is that 1, 2,
3?
Ross, in terms of asset management,
Guys, for the
are you
450
prepared,
people in here,
if you
haven't
cannot
already
get
done
a
so,
long-term
please
extension done
subscribe
with
to the
Guerrero
channel
or
if you're
Bichette this
enjoying this
offseason, are you
coverage, and
prepared
like up the stream.
going
Can we get
into
up to
next
169
season
likes? You guys are all
having
legends.
2 big assets like that with the risk that they could potentially leave for almost nothing at the end of the
Talking
year?
about Bo and Vlad potentially leaving.
Well, we're prepared for anything that can happen to us, and I think if you're asking what does that mean for our organization, is we have to continue to think about what's best for us to win. Now, there's a lot of urgency around next year. Having said that, you cannot lose sight of what that means long term. So, being prepared for having a solid, strong organization that can sustain winning, you have to always think about the short term and the long term.
Would you have to trade one of the 2 if you didn't get them signed?
Thank you.
This offseason?
No, I don't. I would never say that we have to do something or don't have to do something. And we're fortunate to have incredible support that we aren't ever backed into a corner that way.
I'm
now,
learning nothing.
Should you and will you and would you are different questions that I'd rather have more information to answer.
Okay, and then the last couple months, you guys have been kind of going through this evaluation, kind of audition phase, looking ahead to 2025. Now that you've had a longer look at the guys you acquired at the trade deadline, some of your younger prospects as well, is there anything that you guys figured out in the last 2 months that you can now cross off the list in terms of we don't need to go after this offseason because we have these guys?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
I think it's just depth. So if you look across our infield, we have a lot of alternatives, and then we have strong alternatives in our outfield as well. I think what we've proven is that we're going to have versatility and depth in both areas. Catching could be a potential need where we have a little bit less of it, but it's a matter of impacting them and then me doing the best job of complementing them from a support and just run production, how each at bat complements the next, and what that means in the AL East against really good pitching.
Bro, this guy's really just riding. We're gonna ride with Nathan Lucas, man.
Hey Ross, did you see enough from Bowden Francis and Yariel Rodriguez this year to know that you have your 5-man rotation going into next year, or this offseason, are you guys seeking out an impact starter, or are you just seeking out some depth starting?
Yeah, I would say we'll be in both of those markets for sure. We are afforded the ability to do so, where we don't have to be in the impact market, but we will stay in it.
Just to follow up just on Bowden and Yariel, what did you see from their season that maybe has you feeling good about them being a part of the rotation next year?
Thank you very much for subscribing.
Speaking, I'll separate them, but a lot of similarities. But from Bowden, the thing that was so impressive to me was the strike throwing. I mean, obviously the split gets a lot of attention, but his ability to be aggressive in the zone just separated him. And really impressed with his poise to have dealt with that stretch of historic performance and a couple of runs at no hitters.
No
that
concrete answers.
that
We don't know how many players
takes
we
a,
need.
set,
We
a
don't know
special
which
level
players we're
of
looking at.
poise.
We don't know which guys
And
we're
from
targeting.
Yariel, from a guy who
acknowledging our team roster makeup, and that's
didn't
about it.
pitch
We like
for an
guys that
entire
can
year
do literally
and
everything.
comes to a
Versatility
new
of
country
5 tool
entirely,
players. I don't think
not
Vladdy is a
speaking
generational
another
player.
culture,
Yeah, well,
language,
it's not just
yes,
about power,
but
it's
just
about
such a
hitting with
different
contact and
culture and
strikeout lists.
professional
Okay, so you're
environment,
talking about
and
Judge,
to just have no fear
We really
and
like
not
Juan
back
Soto, but
down.
we also like the depth in the
It's
outfield.
really interesting talking to him about his experience and his growth to now think about how much his routine is
Shout out to
going
John
to
for
change and
becoming a
making
member. Shout out to
sure
John
that we
W.
help him
John.
manage that in an effective way because of the cultural differences in professional baseball in Cuba
Guys,
and
he's just
here in
glazing
North America.
Ariel and Bowden. It's nothing really.
Back to Shai.
Russ, just because we've been talking about sort of next year, just for clarity, is next year definitively your approach is to be competitive and to try and win, try to get back to the postseason? Or is there a scenario that could play out this offseason where you guys could seriously consider some sort of step back and partial further reset?
So yes to the first question, no to the second question.
Okay.
So, we are definitively committed to this core. And I've said this to Bo and Vladdy that they have done very powerful things already. And they've done them as a team. They've done exceptional things to win in the AL East, and not enough to their standards, nor mine, and certainly not the fans. But what they've accomplished already is exceptional, and there's a lot of good baseball ahead of them, and I hope it's together.
Okay,
Given
so
what
that
you've
was
just
the
said
first,
there,
like,
from a payroll
plan.
structure
We actually
standpoint
had
moving
an answer.
forward,
We are
can
going
you
to
build
be
around two very
next year. We're not
significant
gonna be
contracts
selling.
for
We're not
both
gonna
of
be
those
rebuilding.
players and still have room to augment them just next year and also beyond next year?
Yes, we can. We've had incredible support here, and that is certainly a possibility. Now, that doesn't make it just happen because it's a possibility. It's extremely difficult to sign one player to an extension. Signing two is difficult. Building around them also still requires making sure that our farm system continues to contribute.
Bottom 5.
Go to
guys,
Mike.
by the way.
Hi, Ross.
Mike?
When Mark was in here before, he talked about not having enough depth. You've talked about not having enough depth, and especially in the bullpen. But the bullpen coach loses his job. So can you just explain the thinking there?
Yeah, no, that's a very, it lies with me. Like I'm the one, Jeff Ware did not do anything wrong. He's done some good things in this game, some great things he will continue to. We are looking to make incremental improvements, and we made, John and I, the very tough decision to have another voice come into the fold, another skill set come into the fold, that Pete is obviously very involved in that, and as opposed to asking Jeff to do things differently, even though the year before we had success. But the game moves fast. It moves fast, and I think the world of Jeff, and we had to make a very, very difficult decision.
Why are you firing?
And sticking with the coaching
Just to
staff,
clarify,
you know, last year we heard how
Jeff was
excited
good, not his
Donnie
fault.
was to
Ross
have a
Atkins'
bigger role
fault.
in the
Jeff loses
offense,
his
and
job.
you know how excited you guys were to have this wonderful hitter helping out. Now we hear how excited he is to step back and do what he was doing the year before. What was the year of the offense under Don like from that perspective?
Yeah, we just need to change the structure, and he's open to it. So it's a combination of urgency, a trend over the last couple of years, and ensuring that we are doing everything to make incremental progress in a very complex problem.
Go to Fernando. Fernando.
Gracias.
Wonderful.
Ross, una pregunta para lo que viene en el mercado de invierno. ¿Qué tan posiblemente es la inversión grande de Rogers? Y en la cuestión del catching, hablaste que hacía falta allí tal vez mirarlo un poco más de cerca. Sabemos que solo está Kirk. ¿Qué nos puedes decir sobre esto?
Okay, so as I've turned 51 years old, my Spanish is not as strong as it used to be, but I'll respectfully do my best. So So, estamos muy emocionados acerca de este equipo. Entendimos que tenemos
I
que
don't know
añadir
Thought somebody was
a
going to
este
translate this.
grupo
I'm not
y
aware
que
of what he's
hemos
talking about there. So
contestado
far, the
acerca
only thing of actual
la
substance is
posibilidad,
that we
sí,
are definitively
obviamente
committed
podemos
to going in
añadir
at least for next
ofensivamente
year.
y también
But we have no
a los
idea
relevers,
who we're going to get.
relevadores.
It's all open.
Y en el
Yeah.
área
We
de
like the
receptores
like the
tenemos
depth
que
of the
mantener
hitting.
abierto.
We have no depth
Pero
in terms of
Alejandro
bullpen.
Kirk
Jeff
tenía
did
un
a
año
great job
bastante
with the
bien.
bullpen.
Uno de los mejores
It's my fault speaking for
receptores
Ross Atkins,
defensivamente
but Jeff
en
still
la
needed
liga
to go.
y terminaste fuerte con su bate. So esa posibilidad que no tenemos. Posiblemente puede recibir 100 a 110
Guillermo Martinez was very
juegos
successful,
para nosotros y
but we need
posiblemente
Yeah.
como
It's like,
DH
no, I mean, it's
de nuevo.
again, it's the most ridiculous
Pero
thing
estamos
ever. Right? It's
abiertos
like for
también.
whatever reason, like this guy is just safe from
Ross,
everything.
y
Like, it's
de
like
la,
he's gotta
de
get
la
a jail-free
evaluación
card.
de Vladimir
Everyone else just-
in Spanish, yeah. La evaluación de Vladimir Guerrero, la importancia de firmarlo en un contrato largo y si la organización sueña en firmar a Juan Soto y hacer una dupla con Vladi. Ya vimos lo que hizo con los Yankees.
Que la importancia a firmar Vladi es
talking about Vladi. I figured they'd be talking about Vladi.
También con la meta a ganar. Tenemos a ganar y por eso pensamos que Vladimir Guerrero puede ayudar a nosotros a hacerlo para más tiempo.
Just sounds prettier.
So, tenemos interés en cumplir la meta, hacerlo. Él jugando con Juan Soto, seguro, cualquier equipo
Soto.
hablando de
No, that
este
guy.
grupo de bateadores va a tener interés. Ahora mismo Juan Soto está jugando para otro equipo y vamos a estar abiertos en maneras a mejorar este equipo.
All right, that concludes our press conference. Thank you so much, everyone.
All right, thank you, everyone.
And that is it, everybody. That is the press conference of Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins. All right, we're going to obviously go to the chat, get all your thoughts and opinions, guys. But first, I'll hand it over to Nick. Grade that out of, give that a grading, a letter grading. I'll be honest, it started off not too bad. Kind of just start with standard, and then it just took it downhill.
I mean, I think
spiral.
it's both the same. Like, I think they're both in the same vein of like, this isn't at all what we were hoping for. We didn't really learn a whole lot from what it was that was said. I mean, we know that both of the guys are disappointed and sorry, but we're very aware that they're not willing to take the fall for it themselves, and that other people are the scapegoats. I mean, they legitimately said it themselves that they came out and they said that the guys that we fired did great jobs. They said that Guillermo Martinez did a great job. They said that Jeff Ware did a great job. I mean, they were literally talking about how they did great jobs, and then they were discussing how it's Ross Atkins' fault that there was not enough depth there in the bullpen, that there was not enough, solid, hitters that can do everything, because he was talking about what he needs in a hitter, and he was talking about how that's his fault. However, Jeff and Guillermo needed to go. So, like, they effectively just said, in other words, that they are the scapegoats.
Yep.
It was his bad, and it was Mark's bad, but they're not quite willing to take the fall for it yet, so other people have to. That's what we learned there. We learned that Ross Atkins is going to be back, and we learned that his intentions this offseason is to internally and externally bring in bullpen. We think that he wants to bring in hitters. However, it's very troublesome because we don't know how many are coming. We know that power hitters are dangerous because we also need to have contact hitters too, which is true.
Right.
But, I mean, now you're getting up in the money there, Ross.
Here's what I got to say about that, man. If that is your logical thinking going into last offseason, I think last offseason makes a ton of sense. Oh, no, okay, so we need a guy who can hit power but also make contact because in the postseason, we need to make more contact and do less strikeouts. Okay, well, now your pool of players goes down to Shohei Ohtani. And if you miss out on Shohei Ohtani, well, then you're going to go, but this really good player doesn't have the contact with this one. Oh, crap. And now we're left with a 39-year-old Justin Turner that you're hoping can revitalize his career because he did that in the prime of his career. Pretty dang good.
Sure.
But not currently date. So if that's your thinking going into this offseason yet again, I'm very scared. Because if he's not looking at an Alex Bregman or Anthony Santander or Teoscar Hernandez. It's like, because those guys have good tools in other areas, but Teoscar Hernandez strikes out a lot. Santander strikes out a little bit. But Alex Bregman doesn't have the power. If we're just looking at the Juan Sotos of the world, we're in trouble. If that's actually how you're thinking about it.
Yeah, and I mean, they talked about Juan Soto just a little bit, but it was pretty clear in there that just from the way they were speaking, I don't think Juan Soto's coming here, man. Like the budget is going to be roughly the same as it was last year. And for those who are unfamiliar, last year we spent about $45 million additionally. Now there's a lot of things that need to be factored in here because we did shave off some money at this trade deadline. We were shaving off a little bit of money. However, you're going to see some contracts go up. Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s arbitration is going to increase by roughly $10 million. He's going to get paid probably just shy of $30 million, roughly $29 million. So that's $9 million additionally that is just going to be going to Guerrero just to retain the players that we already have. And similarly, there will be some other players as well that are in that arbitration conversation. Jordan Romano could be one that gets paid roughly $10 million. Bo Bichette, even though it was a terrible year, will probably at least remain the same. And if not, or actually, no, he won't because he signed we have him on a deal. Excuse me. Bo Bichette is the exception. But you understand my meaning that there are several different individuals here that are going to be raising in price, meaning that if the budget is to remain the same, we actually don't have as much money as you think to play with. I'm thinking that it is somewhere in the $30 to $40 million range to go out and to acquire different free agents, which I don't know is enough when you're trying to compete and when you're trying to be committed to this core. How are you going to be committed to being competitive next year if you're not willing to go out and to, address all of these different needs? The bullpen is ravaged. And you're right. You didn't do a good enough job at providing sound depth.
Right.
How are we going to do it this year with a lack of budget?
I'm trying to find out because someone said in the chat that Vladdy was they talked about how they wanted to sign Vladdy, but I'm seeing actually a lot of people doing a lot of memes right now that they're like,
be in Spanish.
In Spanish, yeah. In the last couple of questions, because they mentioned Vladdy, so people are like, people are talking about how they're going to sign both of them back. Obviously it's a joke because I highly doubt they would ever say that. But overall, guys, I mean, I expected Actually, we didn't get an apology from Ross Atkins, did we? Right off the top, we didn't get an apology, did we?
I felt like it was underlying there.
He kind of just blamed I got to take some accountability. He didn't give us a sob story like Mark Shapiro. He stayed up all night.
That's insane, dude. That was
sleep.
crazy.
I highly doubt you're staying up all night.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? You think I'm staying? No, you're not staying up all night thinking about how you disappointed the fans. That's
listen,
ridiculous.
This is the hypocritical thing. This is what's very hypocritical. You're telling me that you're waking up in the middle of the night thinking about how we took away playoff games from the kids and the families, but you don't know your budget yet? So
the entire last 2 months you've been just staying up all night.
You are ravaged with worry and anxiety about this terrible thing that you've done, but you have no actionable plan?
No, yeah, that's just ridiculous.
If I'm stressed out to the point where I'm literally keeping myself up, all I'm thinking about is how we're going to get better for next year.
You need a mental health leave. If this season is bothering you that much, you need a mental health. No, seriously, actually.
I mean, that's why it's clearly bullshit. There's no way, right? Because anybody that's real, that actually is that stressed out, they know exactly what they're doing this offseason
making a game plan
to make it 10 times better. That was clearly just BS to try to pull at the heartstrings and, again, just shoveling in the bullshit, hoping that we'll accept it, which I'm glad that we didn't. There was a large community in here that clearly does not buy into it. Ultimately, it's the same, folks. It's the same. We're rocking and rolling into the offseason, hoping to be somewhat buyers, but with a budget remaining the same and with no actionable game plan here. I'm struggling to see how we're going to be competitive in 2025.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of, if you want to even get bullpen, that's a big one right there, the big budget. If you even want to get bullpen, you're going to be trading away a lot of your guys. I'm talking the rookies, the prospects. That's the only way. You're going to have to trade a lot of them away. Because if you don't have the budget, then you're kind of handcuffed. to like 2 guys,
And
3 guys.
that's the thing, and we need that. And keeping in mind, folks, like that budget, like let's assuming that we're spending anywhere. Let's say it's on the upwards trajectory. Let's say we spend $50 million on external pieces, right? $50 million on external pieces. This is per year, by the way, right? So add on $50 million to what's already there. I mean, if you go out and you get one nice bat, from what he was talking about right there, that's $25 million. You know, that's somebody like an Anthony Santander that can do everything, right? You are looking at $20 to $25 million average annual value, maybe even more than that because the guy had over 40 home runs this year. So let's just say they do that. That's half of your budget gone immediately on one player. And now you're talking about how many guys we need to add to the lineup. He refused to give a number. I'll tell you right now, it is 2 to 5 that we need that seriously that need to either bounce back internally or add in to get better.
Yeah, that's why I think that you don't have the budget to add those kind of impact arms in the pen. I don't think so, man.
Right.
You got to go make the trades. You got to make the trades. And I mean, I'm surprised no one really asked about like, the expendability of some of these young guys when it comes to the trade market this year, because that'd be one of my questions.
Well, and that's the thing, right? You're talking about all this depth that you have in the infield and in the outfield. Okay, are we willing to put them on the trade block then? Is somebody like a Spencer Horwitz available for trade if there is so much depth here? Is somebody like a Addison Barger available for trade if we are seriously struggling to get these guys all these starting roles? I think that would be a good question.
Yeah. Overall, guys, I think we can grade this one a pretty big failure of a Blue Jays media press conference.
Shocker.
Yeah, who would have thought, right? We're going to be coming out with a podcast, I believe it's on Friday, Video Room tomorrow, Video Room on Saturday. The boys are going to be away for the weekend as we got a wedding to attend, but you'll see a lot more reactions coming from this press conference, talking about, I guess if we only have 50 mil at best, who can we go get?
What does it look like?
Who are we going to go get? So we're going to be covering the entire offseason. Guys, if you enjoyed this live coverage, I enjoyed it too. Just sitting down with all y'all listening in on the clowns running the Toronto Blue Jays organization. So if you enjoyed it, hit the like button before you leave and subscribe to Blue Jays Today if you haven't already.
Thank you so much for watching. And as always, go Jays, go.